I just wanted to ask, like, okay, anyone out there, is anybody a movie fan, or whether it's action or documentaries, comedies, you name it, or podcasts, or something where you can kind of hit pause and you can escape. So I'll ask, hey, raise your hand, or just noodle on that. And have you ever felt like your life or your design education was a movie? Was there? Oh wow, I haven't been doing Zoom a lot lately, so I'm seeing a lot of hand raising. That's awesome. So I would take it. A lot of us have been, like in a situation or something where you're like, hey, what you're going through, or what you've been through, or what you've heard somebody else go through doesn't seem real. And you're like, this can't be happening. Is this real life? This only happens in movies, right? And a movie that inspired this, what I consider not even a lecture, I consider it's like a conversation. So, a movie that inspired this conversation, Finding Nemo. Anyone know of it, or seen it, or watched it a bazillion times? To me, it is about determination. The characters Marlin and Dory that you see here on the screen, they're looking for Marlin's son Nemo, and they're met with setback after setback after setback, and Marlin, he wants to give up, but doesn't. And Dory, she embodies tenacity, like to the 10th degree. What's her motto? Everybody, I assume everybody knows it. It's got to be on the, it's on the screen. So, just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. So let me paint a picture for you. And I like to do what I call like in the moment time traveling. So we're going to travel back in time a little bit. So, picture a scene from my life movie. And I'm an industrial design student, thinking I was maybe freshman, sophomore at my first college in Ohio. Got word a real car designer from the area, who was a friend of one of my instructors, was coming home, visit family, and he would be stopping by the industrial design, classes, just to stick his head in and take a look. The catch was that he was only going to be looking at seniors and juniors, just senior and junior work. I was freshman or sophomore. Older I get, sometimes the memory gets kind of fuzzy. But my lifelong dream was to be a car designer. I cannot express that enough. And here's a chance for me, outside of Cleveland, here's a chance for me to meet a real car designer. But it wasn't open to freshmen and sophomores. So, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, I'm questioning my own determination, and I'm like, how hungry am I? How bad do I want it? How bad do I want to achieve this goal and this dream of being a car designer? And I find out the timing. I got to tell you, the instructor, he was like, he should have worked for the CIA, or because he made damn sure that no freshman, no sophomore found out the details. But in the essence of Dory, just keep swimming, just keep find a way. And I was in good with, some juniors and seniors. And I found out the details last minute. Hey, Bryan, he's going to be here on this day and time. And when I asked you guys to time travel with me a bit, don't let the bald head fool you. I think Max Snyder. But I'm going back some time, like, oh, this is late 80s, early 90s. So, where's, no cell phones, no digital. It was literally word of mouth. Hey, Bryan, this car designer is going to be here. And so the design, what did I do? I found out the timing, snuck into the classroom, put up the best work I could at the time, perspectives off. And this is, it's not digital. Everything was, hand drawn. And I waited. And the upperclassmen, as we called them back then, the seniors and the juniors who kind of helped sneak me in. Everybody knew I wanted to be a car designer and ultimately wanted to come to Detroit. They hid me. So when this designer, his name's Pat, when this designer came around with the teacher, they get to me, and the instructor, the teacher, he was so focused on Pat and, hey, this student's this and whatnot. And he gets to me, he's like, oh, he played it off really well. He's like, and this is Bryan Young, a freshman. Like, he said it really loud and obvious. And and he tried to go into apologizing to Pat, the car designer. And Pat's like, no, it's cool. And Pat gave me, I can't remember how much time, but he gave me what I consider probably one of the best currencies for me, in my opinion, in the world. We talk about money and things like that, but in my opinion, one of the best currencies we all share is time. Spend it wisely. You don't get change back. I have this saying of how again, the movie theme, and how many of us, whether it's a TV show, a movie, doesn't matter. How many of us have gone to watch something, and at the end of it, you're like, mother, that's 2 hours of my life I'll never get back. You wind up mad. So I don't know about you. That's me. And I blame Netflix for some of it, because I'm sitting up here like, I'm going to get this right off of, So little sidebar there. But Pat, he spent time with me, and he sat there, looked at my work, asked me questions. All right, Bryan, what are you thinking? What's your plan? And I told him my plan, which was, well, I'll transfer like a couple of years from now. No, do it now. If you don't do it now, odds are you're not going to do it. So what do we got to do to get you prepared? And, the following semester, in addition to my course load, like, that was maxed out, I had to pull double duty to like work on new work at that time for my entrance portfolio. And we're talking old school in the sense where I had to shell out money I didn't have to hire. I'm going to probably date myself on this one, but when I don't know about you, Max, but I had to submit my portfolio in slides. So hired a professional photographer, got all my work together, had some models, physical models that I made from products and whatnot, the best car sketches. Even one of the last things I remember was a self-portrait, which to look at me now, you're probably like, oh man, has he always been bald? I actually had dreadlocks back then. So I did this self-portrait, charcoal, best I could. So fast forward, sent it off. I'm waiting. I got in, I'm like, oh, I got accepted. Like, sweet. Like, my God, and here's where I say, like, cue the music, the band plays, roll credits, and happily ever after. Show of hands. How many of us have had a vision for our lives, and like your vision's over here to achieve a dream or whatever, but then the reality kicks in, like, family member gets sick, somebody loses a job, somebody passes away, somebody, you become a caregiver, you hadn't planned on it, you wind up having to work 2-3 jobs. Life happens, and you're still expected to be creative. So for me, that cueing the music and having ooh, wow, okay, that didn't happen. So I'll just say that I didn't foresee life happening on the road to being a designer, achieving this dream. And I'll let that sit with everybody, just really, just really sit and think about each and every one of you, everybody that's on the Zoom this evening. Whatever your dream, even if you're not in the creative arts, but if you got a passion, if you're trying to achieve a goal, reach that destination, and then life happens that you didn't plan on, what do you do? I mean, you kind of get knocked back, you get a setback, you just keep swimming. And for me, I didn't foresee a cancer scare when I was at CCS on the road to achieving my dream. That's something I didn't plan. Life happened. It prolonged my time at CCS. I often share that, I was on the super senior plan. I was supposed to get out in 4, but I had to stretch it and got out in 5 years. But I kept swimming slowly with a couple of classes, but I kept swimming. Setbacks like that, they can, cliches become cliches for a reason, right? I assume we all have, had a fair share of them in each of our lives, whether it's big or like maybe a minor one where you have a vision for an art piece or maybe a rendering technique, and you're like, damn it, I just can't get it. Why can't I get it? And what do you do? When you're like in your mind, you're thinking, oh, I should be able to pick up, for example, I'm learning gravity sketch, so I'm like, I should be able to pick this up easy. Then it's like, Jesus, man, what? It's not coming as easy as I thought. I didn't foresee that. So what do you do? What's that saying? Do you fold up shop and go home? How bad do you want it? How hungry are you? How determined are you? Just keep swimming, maybe slower. And then maybe at some other point, you can be able to swim faster when something that you thought would be hard to pick up comes easily to you. So, I had to adapt my life to include recovery and CCS. But then I became a professional designer. I graduated and eventually got to GM, which was a dream of mine from childhood. But then later I was let go. And it wasn't because of any, wrongdoing or anything, but this is still early in my career. And I was not aware that I was hired in as a contract employee, as a contract designer. So contract ended, they were like, nothing against my skill set or anything. They just didn't renew it. So that was a huge emotional setback for me. Obviously, professionally, we all have to eat. We all have to pay bills, whether now, or excuse me, whether not now, if you're in a position where somebody else is, like a Bruce Wayne, just, peeling off some cash, or later, inevitably, we all have to make our way financially, and also try to, have your passion. But yeah, that kind of took me back, or excuse me, took me aback, where I had fought so hard, pursuing that dream. I want to be a car designer. I want to be this is it. This is it. I'm focused on that. And when that setback happened, I didn't know it at the time, but it was teaching me something. And what am I going to do? Life happens on your way, to achieving your dream, your goal. And especially in this, I'm biased because I feel, I'm amongst fellow creatives here, but I feel like there's something about being a creative, whether you are a creative in the arts, visually, you can paint, design products that people can interact with, whether you're creative in literature, singing, definitely not me, even cooking. But there's something about when you have to tap into that creativity to produce the best work, but also you're having real life over here. Like, oh crap, my financial aid, what's up with that? Dude, the domino effect. My financial aid impacts this, this, and this. Wait, I got to take a second shift at fill in the blank. How does that impact, everything else down the line? But I kept swimming. So I just, I'm going to be, organically going through like a timeline. We're going to get to some other projects, but for me, I think if I can impart any, I don't know, words of wisdom or just a different perspective, I assume that a lot of the students and faculty have seen a lot of presentations and a lot of lectures from, a hitter's row of designers. And I've seen a couple, I've watched quite a few, and I thought, well, I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to share, hopefully, a different perspective that you got to have the hunger, the desire to keep swimming, but don't lose sight of humanity. Don't lose sight of, what's driving you and why you are continuing to push even with setbacks. So I wanted to get you guys to a point with me in this little movie of my life, and how just keep swimming is a recurring theme. And I think if you really start to look back on each of your journeys, you may not recognize it now, but maybe at the end start to realize, what? Oh, there's that one obstacle, whatever it may be, in childhood and adulthood. It doesn't matter what size, because to me, if it's in your life and it happened to you, it's important, it's big. But look back on when a setback was really a setup to catapult you even further. And when I endured that layoff from GM, I was emotionally devastated, but I kept going because I'm like, all right, well, I want to be a designer. So what happened is that opened me up for an opportunity to a design opportunity, mind you, to move and go live and work in Germany, a small company. And I was thinking about this past couple of days leading up to this, and so you know that sometimes um, just not being scared to say yes can do wonders, because I hadn't really thought about, wait a minute, I've never been out of the country. Wait, German? Do I speak German? No. And the closer the time came, I just came up with this one today because I didn't plan on sharing this part. So this is really kind of ad lib and just kind of memory reflection. But I thought about it like, no, I've never hit the lottery. And if any of you guys in here have hit the lottery, please let Max and I know. But I see these lottery winners, the ones that do come forward on the news, like you got some strength, because I want to be hidden. But I was thinking about, at this chapter of my life and career, I have this opportunity to move to Germany, to go live in Germany, work in Germany. I've never been there. And I'm sitting there and I kind of forgot that, like, wait, they gave me a job offer. I'm back to being a employed professional designer. But it still didn't register that I'd have to move. So I think of it like, is this what it must be like when, like, people, like, I don't know, I get a sticky note or something here, but they hold up their lottery ticket and they're like, oh my God, honey, our numbers, this is us. And it's like, they know they won, but it really hasn't hit them yet. All the while, I'm like, wow, I think I'm really going to Germany. No kids, no, it's just, just me, and go to get my first passport. Company paid for it. Like, oh, okay, sweet. These are like the cool things on this journey to being a designer. Don't overlook those. I'm sitting here like, okay, picture taken, then going through all this stuff, like, yeah, like, holy crap. Then when people start to come in and get your stuff that you don't know, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm moving to Germany. Where is Stuttgart anyway? Can I drive there? That means I got to fly over an ocean. I don't do well with, enclosed tube. And so just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. You keep going. And then I get there and I'm like, holy, I'm really here. I don't know anybody. How does this impact my creativity, my psyche, my humanity? And, I settled in. I got to put the spoiler out there. I did have a cheat because one of my friends from school was already there a year ahead of me. He was at a company, and so he helped me out. That's an example, in my opinion, of do not be afraid to lean on others. Don't, I don't know what it is. I feel like a lot of us, as we get older, we take less risks. We slowly stop swimming and start just kind of floating. So, just let that one sit there for a minute. But I want you may recognize a theme throughout what I'm sharing with you, design-wise, life-wise. I consider it like, many of us, I think this is universal. Many of us go through setbacks or obstacles, especially when especially in your creativity. When, it's one thing when you're like doodling, on your tablet or your sketchbook for yourself, right? As a child, you're like, oh man. And then life starts to, you've got that one family member. I'll keep it real with you. I've had family members, why do you want to go, to art school? Designer, who do you think you are? Like, dude, what do you do for a living? And nothing wrong with those individuals. They just don't get it. They just don't get it. So I will just say that fast forward to when I was in Germany, that company, unfortunately, another setback, but a setup. That company went out of business. So I found myself moving back here. They went bankrupt and found myself, dude, do I have to just keep swimming again? How many of us, how many of us have had something that seems to be going smoothly, whether it's a project, a relationship, a job, that family member who has been in remission, and then all of a sudden it's like, uh-oh, it's back. It's like, damn, man. Okay. What do you do? You gotta, you gotta dig deep and keep swimming. So I kept swimming, and what I will get us to next, where we started, get into some visuals here, but when I got back here to the States, that notion, that feeling of, well, really, it was like, I gotta swim or sink. I swam, metaphorically, I swam into a position at Navistar, designing semi-trucks and school buses. Keeping in mind, I wanted to be a car designer. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm doing trucks, I'm doing semi-trucks. And I was there for 5 years, designing semi-trucks. I lived out some of my dreams, not realizing it because it wasn't how I planned it. So, if you still achieve a dream, whether it's design, creativity, artists, whatnot, but just marinate on this one. If you still achieve a dream, does it matter that you got there in a way you didn't plan? I wanted to design a concept. I had this like notion, like, okay, so maybe it's the naivete of my youth. I'm gonna go to Detroit. I'm gonna be a designer. I'm gonna go to art school, get out, and I'm gonna design concept cars and all this stuff. And then I'm gonna walk down the street and people are gonna, hey, that was my warped view. And then it's like, oh crap, over here it's like, uh-oh, bam, here's a punch, here's a punch, here's a punch. So when I got to Navistar and started, working, that's where I really started to get my feet under me, of like, wait a minute. Year one went by. Oh my gosh, I'm still here. The company's, the company's here, starting to pay my own bills, starting to feel like an adult. And one of the dreams that I had was to design a concept car. And it didn't happen the way I had planned it, but it happened. And remember what I was, if you achieve your dream, doesn't matter how you got there if it wasn't how you had planned it. I had this opportunity. Our studio was, I think, maybe 5 or 6 designers, myself and 2 other who are direct. So I felt a little safer, I'm a direct employee. Whew, okay. And then there's 3 contract designers. And this opportunity came up. Studio chief said, hey, Bryan, you're a gearhead. You love cars. We got an opportunity here. You've got, I think, less than a week. There was a project that came up. This is a semi-truck company, you know, what I considered less glamorous than like the flash and pizzazz of cars. But this opportunity came up. They wanted a splash. They wanted to make a statement. Navistar, which is the parent company of International, or known as International Harvester, they go back way back. And they're known as semi-trucks, school buses, diesel engines. They wanted to make a splash. It was their anniversary coming up. So myself and another designer, it felt like I don't know, like a battle royale, you know, where, you know, you're going at it. And it's like, all right, in a healthy way, nonviolent, in a nonviolent way. But we had a couple of days to come up with a concept, sketch it out, and present it to marketing. This is coming out of marketing's budget. And I'm sitting here thinking at the time, like, oh my God, like, we don't have time to even do a render. It's literally like, get your sketchbook and just sketch, and they'll be here in a couple of days. Don't worry about anything flashy. Just get your idea down. Busted my butt, did that. My pitch was, hey, okay, well, these things are so huge, and I probably can't get a sense of scale until this next photo. But if you are like, when everyone goes out tomorrow, or scrolling on the internet or what have you, look at any full-size American pickup truck, Chevy, Ford, Ram, whatever. Those things are like I don't know, like a soda can next to this right here. It's the size of, well, it's on the platform of a U-Haul truck or a Penske. So these were big. So with that in mind, I kind of had a sense of what my colleague was going to do. He was going to play up to that bigness, make it, you know, very masculine and aggressive. And I was thinking, well, okay, well, personally, up until this point in my life, I was still reeling from, like, man, my gosh, you know, man, you know, had a serious cancer scare in college, and, you know, that gives you a perspective. And so how about, you know, I don't take life too seriously. So how about we make this fun? This thing is so big. Let's lean into happiness and fun. And I said, well, how about if this thing was like a big hot rod? So I put together this pitch, came back, they said, yes, we love it. You got picked. And I'm sitting here like, wow, just keep, you know, believe in yourself. Keep, you know, keep swimming. Here's another one I like to challenge everybody on, or just really think about on if this applies to any part of your life, what I'm about to share and ask. Has there been any time that, like, whether either if you're a prayerful person or if you've put out in the universe or prayed for something and then it happened and you're like, oh, sweet. But then you're like, holy crap, I wasn't expecting all of this. And then you're kind of like second guessing. Like, so that was me with this one because I was like, oh my God, I got it. And then I wish I had a stack of papers. I don't have any props, but like my boss was like, hey, Bryan, congratulations. They like your idea. Here's some folders of everybody in the studio. Pick your team. We're gonna walk you through how to do a budget, I'm like, yo, I just went to art school. I didn't learn anything about this. And at that time, I was like one of the younger people. And there were a lot of, you know, let's just say a lot of people that were a lot more older than I am, or I was at that time. But ultimately, what happened is we had success. Uh, and that's a younger me with what, more hair up here than the gray on my chin. And we unveiled it at the Chicago Auto Show. Just keep swimming. You know, just keep swimming. To think that I went from, for me personally, like, all right, well, when Pat, that real car designer, is like, hey, do it now or you're never going to do it. Submit my work to CCS, cross my fingers. Oh my God, I got in, sweet. Now, oh man, this is it. I'm gonna be a car designer. Then all of a sudden, man, I'm really tired. Oof, man, I'm losing weight here. What is it? I'm feeling, quite frankly, I'll be real. I'm pretty filterless. I'm feeling my chest. And as a young man, I kind of leaned into like my fear and anxiety and stereotype. And I felt this lump and I was ignoring it. So, life happens. Life happens on the way to you trying to achieve your dream. And to think I went from there to that, the young man I'm looking at, that was humbling. It didn't happen how I had planned it. I thought, go to GM or go to Ford or wherever, and then I'll do a concept car. When this opportunity came up, our studio was so small. I designed everything. And when I say everything, I mean like everything. The fog lights, I picked those. I can go back to the previous view. So in this tilted perspective, that roof spoiler, little thing, I don't know if you guys can make out behind the dual panel, like sunroofs, excuse me, the hinges for that spoiler, the silver bright, the metal, I designed those. I was sitting there like, and then when the shop would come back and say, hey, that's not going to hold the weight. Every single detail. That would not have happened if I stayed on the path that I had laid out for myself. So it's just something to think about when you are on the road to trying to achieve your dream, your goal. Life happens, and if you still end up at your goal, at your dream, but by a different pathway, is that bad? I'm sure the challenges along the way, didn't help your heart rate. But if you get to that, get to that end, then I think you're going to learn something more about yourself, about humanity, about empathy. And I often say empathy in design, in creativity. I feel like that is a superpower that has yet to be fully unleashed amongst the creative community. But I wanted to fast forward. Guess where I ended back up? Back at GM. So the success of either I'm crazy or crazy, but I ended back up at GM after 5 years at a Navistar. And I had some more success, but more setbacks. So if anyone remembers, and if you don't, I'm happy that you don't. But if anyone can remember the little financial meltdown that we had back in 2008, this is a little blip, really. But I was at GM during that time, and how many of us, again, I'm asking for some interaction during our conversation here, but how many of us have said to ourselves, either out loud or in your own head, when a situation's come up, you know what? If I knew, if I knew then what I know now, fill in the blank. So I left Navistar, went to GM, and had success. I designed products that often get overlooked, but I was just happy just being a designer. Wheels, and I was lead wheel designer. This is probably the one I see the most, even now. And I put this one here in the slides. I don't have a lot of slides. I just want to share stories with you and hopefully, bring you along this journey and think about how a lot of the items I'm sharing apply to you in your lives, from design to life to family, but this one is one where, for me, I still get giddy. I've been in this, couple of decades now, plus, and rolling in a parking lot, and I'll see something that either A, I designed outright, or I was a part of the team, and items that get overlooked, but are, they're no less no less significant. I'm like, if somebody is interacting with a product that I was a part of, or commissioned paintings, that brings me joy, seriously. And every time I see these wheels out there, I think of, oh, wow, that was a pain in the ass dealing with that engineer, but we got it, got it through. But trying to get somebody to see your vision, it's one thing I will seriously never get tired of. I don't use that word lightly. I really try to be mindful of my vocabulary. Words matter. Words have weight. But I can honestly say never, with not just these wheels, but with things that I've been a part of. I truly never get tired of the finished product and seeing it like, oh my gosh. And then especially if, like, here's where I feel like, as a good designer, and technically, in my opinion, if you're really doing your job right for consumer products, for hell, even for cars, the customer should be none the wiser. It should just be intuitive. You think about it, how many of us, again, your arms may get tired. Well, the finger of going click to do the hand raise, but think about, in your daily lives, any number of products that you've interacted with as fellow creatives, and you're sitting here like, who the hell designed this mother? Ugh. Come on, like, so, that's when we have failed, in my opinion. That's when we have failed. I can't remember. I really tried to find this one little cartoon that an engineer sent to me, and maybe some of you have seen it, and I can't remember who, but it was a square, and it had like the typical engineer, and like, some glasses and a pocket protector, and it had the designer to the side of him in a black turtleneck, and had I don't even know what, I think it was maybe an alarm clock or some digital interface. And the engineer is saying, but you've made the graphics black. You've made the buttons black. How's the user supposed to know what to touch? And then the designer's response is, yeah, but it looks cool. I'm like, dude, you failed. So, I just give you that story. So what I wanted to share from, again, we're going to do we're coming forward in time now, from the wheels to, this is a period of time. We're going to leave it here for a bit, but around this time, life happened. The financial meltdown, and my creativity was really, I felt like I was in a good zone. I was really buzzing along. I was getting clients for commissioned art pieces. I do, paintings. It's not a really like big thing, but I was like, wow, I'm in the zone. And then all of a sudden, because of the setbacks I had encountered up until that point in my career, my spidey sense was tingling. Like, wait a minute, the economy, okay, it's one thing for a little blip. And then the red flag for me was when we had a studio meeting, and it was one of those that, you see the house on fire, but your boss is like, yo, don't worry, we've got water for that. And the water's like, this size, but the building is, don't go back to work. So for me in the team I was on, it was, hey, this was before Thanksgiving, by the way, the year before, or maybe a couple of months before we went into that crash. And hey, everybody, just got to share some news. How's everybody doing today? So anybody making over, and I'll share the dollar amount. Anybody making over $50,000 a year salary. Didn't matter if you were studio chief, VP. This is what we were told. Hell, if you were mopping the floors and you were making it, didn't matter. Anybody making over that amount of money, the next pay period, automatic pay reduction of 15%. But this is temporary, but we're cool. Go back to work. How are you supposed to rationalize that with your creativity and life? And yeah, and I'm like, okay, well, this smells familiar. So I'm like, all right, let me get my, portfolio and everything together. Just keep swimming. The one thing in that movie I noticed, yeah, Marlon and Dory kept swimming, but Marlon, after a while, kind of started to wise up a bit. Like, he's getting, he had to, his antennas were like on full alert. A couple of months later, and then we're in the boom crisis. The studio is, not wiped out, but a lot of people were out of work, me included. And then this year, you talk about setbacks, but getting set up. But I had another huge life setback where I was nearly killed by a suspected drunk driver. Hit me head on. I'm out riding my motorcycle, and I venture to say, out of all the creatives that are here, whether you're right-handed or left-handed, I assume all of us use our hands, right? In some capacity. I know I do. I broke my drawing hand. And you talk about a setback. I hadn't really thought about that as a setback. It's one thing when you're going through life and you're finally nailing, like, oh man, I got my line quality down just right. Ooh, I got this perspective down. Or if you're painting, I've got some oil paintings I'm looking at right now of mine. I'm like, oh, sweet. I just finally got the right blend of mixing these colors together, and it doesn't look like baby crap, but actually looks like the nice shade that I want. To go from that to like and I'm keeping it like the Cliff Note version, but basically my whole body was in a cast. You know, arms, I needed help getting to the bathroom. So, and here's where the fate and the comedy of the universe. Then all of a sudden I started getting calls. Hey, saw your portfolio. You want to come in for an interview? I'm like, yeah, man, that ain't gonna happen. So just stick the pencil right there and sketch like the penguin. So that was a major setback. That was life. And then the doubt and the shame, they start to creep in. But how I kept swimming, I dug deep. I thought of, okay, this is something I've wanted. Like, where's my determination? Where's your determination when, like, if I'm going to generalize, but just think about each and every one of you, your own journey to where you are right now. Lose a job, lose faith, start to question your creativity, start to question, what the hell am I doing here? By that point in my life, I think I was maybe 10, 15 years in, and it's like, what am I doing here? Then the haters start to, get in your head. And I had to go to a place, which I hope we all do, go internally and try to remember, try to think back, try to go back in time to those periods in your life, in the past life, where you didn't have all the crap that is trying to impede your creativity, impede your passion, impede your hunger. Go back to a time where you're like, man, like the little Bryan, as I refer to my younger self, like, wow, the little Bryan that had the goodness of naivete of not knowing how life can throw some obstacles at you. And I realized, you know what? I can't do anything else. I'm just hardwired to be a creative person. And so fast forward to coming through about 2 years of physical therapy and whatnot, learning how to draw again. And all the while, I couldn't stop swimming. I couldn't stop. I had to keep moving. So during that time, when the cast finally came off and I was doing physical therapy, the doctors were like, okay, well, you got to be very careful. And you got to be very careful. So I said, well, hey, I was just thinking about taking some classes at a community college. I can do that, right? Like, oh, well, yeah, sure. I didn't tell them that it was like welding and metal forming, because I'm like, I had to keep moving. I had to keep moving. Things that were that I felt would help me. I look at designers, I look at creatives, I look at artists. Ooh, if you haven't done this by now, then hopefully this is one of many things I can impart on everybody. But look at we all are superheroes in our own right. And in my opinion, whether you're Batman, Wonder Woman, Miss Marvel, you're a superhero. You can do things that some people can't do. Along with that, like a lot of those superheroes, I would assume, we're in fantasy movie world now, but a lot of the superheroes, if you think about it, well, I would assume that they got to do some training, maybe off camera, or, oh, wow, I've got this new widget. So let me try that out. That's what creatives are. That's what designers are. And during this period of my life, I'm like, okay, well, crap, I'm not approved to go back to work yet. But if I just sit here, I feel like I'm going to sink. I got to keep moving. I got to keep swimming. What can I do? What can I add to my utility belt that may not come into play right now, but maybe down the line? So I did welding and did some of these other things. Fast forward yet again. Now we're getting a little closer. Fast forward. I get an opportunity to go out to Iowa and design tractors. So again, like, to take you guys back to like the beginning of our conversation, like, all right, well, car designer, Detroit, tractors, Iowa. How the hell do we get here? So just say yes. Just keep swimming. Remember, we talked about, like, if you have a dream and you achieve that dream, but not how you had planned it in your mind, is that any less valid? And my bad. I forgot about some of these, but yeah, some more stuff at GM. But I want to get to this. So I got to Iowa. I got to this farm equipment company. They're a small little independent company, been around forever. Seemed like they had no design at all, and it's like they had no design language. And for those that may not know, a design language, your as we call it, the VBL, the visual brand language. If Apple, pretty much an Apple product. Pick a car. BMW right now, I'm going to pray for them, but I don't want to offend anybody who knows designers at BMW. I just I'm going to get some holy water, but they're BMWs or Mercedes. Pick whatever brand. You see a family resemblance there. This company had none of that. And I talked to some of my car designer friends who were like, hey, that's a hell of an opportunity. Wait, what? They have no design language at all? You get to create it and like set like the foot in the sand or the pole in the sand for others that will come after you to follow. My one friend who was high up at Chrysler at the time, he said, dude, I don't care if that was underwear. There's no design language. You can impact the marketing. You can impact the brand. You can think about that in the auto industry. So again, my dream, and then the path there. I got there and started to swim harder and faster, and we came to an opportunity where let's make a concept, what they call a concept. Here's where all my experience from working in the supplier side, doing UI, UX, hell, I've designed a prom dress at one point in my career, just a wide variety of products and projects and companies came into play, and the automotive side came into play, and the human side came into play, putting my mind in place of our user, the farmer. They're human. They're out there and they're spending a lot of money on these things, but they would like to have a level of comfort. They would like to have a level of desirability with the product. And so we came up with this, it was called the Black Widow, and developed the sketches, and then fast forward, boom, we made it, showed it at the farm shows. Customers were blown away. Had the design language, the view at the top and to the left show the hood like a traditional car or semi, the hood's the face of the vehicle, but with this, the engine was actually in the back, but that was still a big brand definer. And when I redesigned this one, and I'm skipping some things here, but when I came aboard, this was already in development, not this one per se, but the base version, I guess you could say. And I was given a task of, hey, Bryan, congratulations, welcome aboard. That over there, can you redesign that and make it special? Oh, by the way, don't impact the timeline. And that is our volume seller. So don't screw it up. Here, good luck. So it's like, oh, I don't smoke, but if I did, it would have been a problem. But we had success with that. And then that's what allowed me the leverage, to do that. So just keep swimming. You never know. You never know. The one thing with this company and this this product, I feel like I designed myself out of a job. So it was a small company, and the success that I had professionally and personally allowed me to build a design team. I got promoted. I was now officially in the C-suite. I was a design director. I had the company car and the credit card, and sounds like something out of a movie to me. Like, oh, I got to travel for work. I'm taking a company plane. I'm like, what the hell? Wait, what? How did I get here? But yet, I felt like appreciated. Don't get cocky, because in the grand scheme of things, you survived a breast cancer scare, you survived a motorcycle accident that could have took your life. You're fortunate to be here, fortunate to be able to pursue your passion, to chase that dream. Again, not the pathway that I had planned out for myself. I thought, again, I'll just repeat it again, I'm going to go to Detroit, be a car designer, hire at a car company, smooth sailing, that's it. Universe, God, Allah, my ancestors in heaven, somebody had a different plan for me. So, I'm thankful for that, but I said I designed myself out of a job. So unfortunately, the company, as quickly as we went like this, it was like, hey, Bryan, we gotta downsize. Yeah, me and my team that I built, I hired these designers to come to the middle of nowhere, Iowa, and now we're all out of work because John Deere took an interest in the company. After I feel like, this is my conspiracy theory, after they started seeing the products improve, I was like, they got a design team over there. So you got some creativity. So I want to wind this down and just share, remember in the beginning of our chat here, I shared how it seemed like Marlon wanted to quit, with each setback, but he kept swimming because he had determination. His goal, his hunger to find his son was greater than the pull of giving up and quitting. He kept swimming. So I just want to leave y'all with this, and it's how do you just keep swimming? You personally, all of y'all right now, and I don't know, I feel like I'm in church now, but I assume that out of everyone here tonight, I'm a gambling man a little bit. I'm gonna choose a random number of 3. I would assume that at least 3 of y'all right now, you don't have to say it to me, but 3 of y'all right now are going through some crap. I try to keep it clean because my kids got me on a swear jar, and I think they got this basement office like wired. But I venture to say at least 3 of y'all out there are going through something right now. Don't analyze whether it's like, oh my God, I don't have a stamp to mail this letter, or holy crap, rent is due. Oh man, I am at a creative block and I don't know what to do. If it's happening for you, or excuse me, if it's happening in your life to you, it's important. And you're like, how do I keep swimming? So I just want to leave y'all with, how do you just keep swimming? What does that look like for you? I look at, this is the younger Bryan. That's when I was about 4 in Alabama. I'm like, I loved cars. Like, did I know back then how much swimming I'd have to do to get to my dream, and realize along the way that, yeah, I am hitting some points of my dream. So, setbacks you may encounter in your education, in your career, your life, may still, sorry, I get emotional too, but those setbacks, they may still get you to where you want to be with your dreams. You just have to, just keep swimming. So that's all I got for you. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Bryan. Absolutely wonderful how you kind of pointed out a way to shift perspective on kind of life setbacks, and seeing them as opportunities on how to get to where you want to be. That's absolutely wonderful to have you in and give us a personal slice along with your professional accomplishments. You're really kind of giving some of that humility of, designers are human.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for sharing with our students here tonight. I've got a few questions to kick off with you, and then looks like we've got some student questions starting to. I live in downtown Long Beach, and there's traffic goes by behind me. So my first question for you tonight is, what profession other than your own, so we're going to widen this to a designer, would you like to attempt? What if you had the opportunity?
Well, I've actually been, that's a question I've been marinating on. That outside of design, or just in general?
Just in general.
Yeah, that I would like to attempt. I've thought about this. I'd be a missionary.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't have this as a part of the chat or the conversation or lecture, but yeah, that one of the things throughout my life that I've tried to find the blend and the balance is my hunger and my desire to be the best designer I can, regardless of setbacks. But then the human side. My mom was a civil rights activist, and I believe in a lot of humanitarian causes, and I take humanitarian trip, well, pre-COVID, but take a lot of humanitarian trips around the world, and it's one thing to like go to the jungles of Thailand and be there for like 2 weeks, like teaching art, and then come back here to the States. Then there's another to like the people I know that have really like leaned in, and I'm like, that's something I don't know. But I would, yeah, I'm curious. I would like to try that. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Giving back in lots of different ways in that sense. Um, Question two, what profession would you least like to do?
Whew, boy. Um, Probably I'll say a chef. My
Oh,
sister's my sister went to culinary school, so there's creativity in our family.
yeah.
Dude, man, especially if you're talking high end, like it's different. Like you're creating something, you're creating an art piece that somebody will eat. And everybody's taste buds are different. So I'm like, all right, hold up now. That I'd least like I see her, ooh, yeah, man, I'm good. I'm good doing what when I would least like. I don't want to mess up anybody's
Excellent.
food.
And finally, on my questions, how would you like to be remembered?
Well, honestly, to lean in to uh, what I shared tonight, and the spirit of Dory, and just keep swimming and just keep trying. I honestly really would like to be remembered as I just kept trying. I failed so many times personally, professionally, and I kind of mentioned I had a chat this morning. Actually, it's funny the timing of this question, and I kind of said like, I don't know if it was like, I don't know at this age and stage of my life, am I trying to atone for my past sins or not? I don't know. But I've had a total of 3 near-death experience. We didn't even get to the third one, but when you face things like that, and it brings a level of clarity, like the stuff that you think is important, that crap doesn't matter. Like somebody flips you off in traffic, like, you know what? I'm just waiting for the results to come back. Do I, um, so the people, the people that I feel like I've been assholes to over the course of my life, um, I'm sorry. I would like to be remembered as I tried, genuinely tried. And whether that's atonement or I became aware that, hey, there is life around me, there's life on this planet, and we all are family. So yeah, that's how I'd like to be remembered. I tried, not just as a designer. I mean, accolades and all this. I've got patents and, all right, but what are you doing? And that's what I would really like to hopefully be remembered as. Like I've fallen, but I keep getting up. I keep trying. I just keep swimming.
I think that's a great place for us all to be to aspire to, is to remember to keep going. So, all right. So it looks like we've got a few different student questions. We have, okay, so if you don't exactly agree with the philosophy or work ethic of the company you work for, how would you handle that? Would you stop working there? Would you try to change the culture? Again, because that's another setback.
Yeah.
How have you or would you handle that?
Oh yeah. Oh, I and I don't know if that's in the chat or not. Like one of the
Yeah.
things you'll find with me, my ADHD will, so I can only focus on, and I joke a lot, but that is something I was recently diagnosed as an adult, and that made me question like things in my life. So forgive, I'm not being rude. I see the number there, but good question. Seriously, good question, because this speaks to something that I've grappled with personally in the past couple of years. And on this, oh, I almost knocked over my water. On this side of my career, where, you know, I'm like 25 plus years in. Now, if you're up there, if you're closer to the finish, or excuse me, to the starting line of your career, and you have this issue, what I'm about to share, I feel like it's universal, but it comes down to each individual. And I'll simply say, morals over money. Which one? Yeah, and I know that's like probably keeping it extremely simple. But what I have done, I can expand upon that, where if there is something that, if I'm already in a company and I see things that don't align with me personally, or my moral compass, my moral fiber, if it's something that's outright wrong or illegal, then I feel like you should do your civic duty. But if you try to go the way of, all right, look, I'm going to go through proper channels and maybe talk to somebody you trust. Hey, I don't think we should do X, Y, and Z. Here's maybe a different perspective. Things continue, then I would really be confident in yourself and say, hey, you know what? I know I said earlier, we all have to eat, but we also have to lay our head wherever you go to sleep at night, and you have to be alone with your own spirit. And I would think a younger me I'll be frank with you. I don't know if a younger me would be looking at it that way, because in those early years where it's like, yo, man, I'm out of work again. But this company over here may not sit well with me, but it's a paycheck. So I don't know if I'm being frank with you. I don't know if you asked me like 25, 30 years ago, I don't know. I'd be honest with you, I don't know if I could answer it the same way I'm answering it now. I'm answering it with hindsight, reflection, and experience, because I actually turned down recently, like I do a lot of consulting now. I'm also teaching design to younger generation now. And I turned down a job. I turned down talk about morals over money. I turned down an opportunity with it's a design firm. I'll just, no names to protect, but they did not share my same views on a lot of humanitarian issues and civil rights issues and women's rights issues. And this was a company that I had worked with before in the past and never got a whiff of this. I got a message, hey, we've got this project, like this is one, I'll be real with y'all, and this is after George Floyd's murder that was broadcast, all over the world for everybody to see, that we still have a lot of work to do in that area. Just because the notion that, oh, America elected first African-American president, now racial healing is also like, no, like, dude. So this company I'd worked with, I discovered some things it didn't sit well with me. And then here comes this carrot, like later on. Yeah, we've got this opportunity. Would you mind, coming? And then I see the numbers. I'm like, man, how much do I really want to lean into my morals? But you got to sleep with your shadow, your spirit, your family. I've got 3 sons. I'd rather go out here and work UPS. And that's another part of, I've been to the mountaintop and I've been down to, having a car repossessed, doing whatever I can to make ends meet. Because either A, I said, no, I'm not gonna allow my moral compass to be called into question. B, I'm leaning into things will work out. Things will work out. You may not see it now, but yeah, but that's something I know personally, and I'll try to keep it short because if we got a lot more questions, but I hope that answers.
I think that definitely covers both a learned answer and your own honest experience of whether you would have been able to or even had the foresight to as a young designer or as a young man. So you talked quite a bit about keeping swimming and finding a way to get your creativity staying up there. Can you talk about maybe how you have re-excited your creativity? So we know the persistence of keeping it going, but how do you re-excite the creative side?
Well, for me, that falls, the spark to keep that creativity going for me is what I call reread your own resume. So when I don't know if this is a thing, but you know how writers have writer's block and then they can't, like, oh man, I feel like designers or creatives have a creative block and you're sitting there like, oh crap, what do I do? And before the doubt starts to creep in, like, oh my God, am I good enough? What the hell am I doing here? Why, man, I already took their money. Like, I go back and reread my resume, not literally, but go back and think, okay, think about the projects that you've done in the past. That's what I do. I go back and maybe not in an hour long or whatever, but I will occasionally go back and look and like, wait, I did that. Okay. Like taking myself back to what did I look at? For inspiration, reference. Is it still valid now? And then it's like, okay. And then if it's not, then I'm off on a whole nother, tangent of, okay, well, one of the more recent projects that actually is a good question. I forgot about this one. I can't remember if I shared with you. I designed a flask, for I don't want to be insensitive if there's anyone who has, a substance, a problem, or, addiction or whatnot. But I was actually kind of scared, and I'm like, holy crap, I've never done this before. Like, dude. And then, all these things creep in. I'm like, man, all right. Then I was thinking of my skill set. Oh, this has to culminate in, all right, I got to build an Alias 3D model. I haven't been on Alias in a while. Oh crap, man, but I know Alias for like X number of years. So I stopped spazzing out. And seriously, I went back and looked at, okay, what projects have I done in my past, in my portfolio that best, like equate to that one? Has there any other projects that I've done? Look at your own resume, reread your own resume. And I was sitting here like, oh yeah, I mentioned that prom dress earlier. I remember and that was a personal one. I was sitting here, or not here, but when I was at a company, and one of my coworkers, there's a little funny story with this one, because the dude sticks his head over the little divider thing. And he's like, hey, Bryan, because, it was like only a handful of designers, like, hey man, what do you know about dresses? And I was like, I'm sorry, come again. Like, I mean, I don't wear them to work, but like, and so, but I met that challenge. And he was like, well, his, daughter's senior prom's coming up, doesn't want to spend a lot of money. I'm like, dude, if you hire me, you might wind up spending the same amount that you're going to spend. But that was something way out of left field. And I had an accelerated education to come up with a design, getting into the head of like, what does his daughter like? Going through, it was no different than any other project. There was a problem. How do I solve it? Where's my reference? What's the story? Boom. And so that's what I do. Like, what I'm finding myself challenged creatively. I'm experiencing that right now, quite frankly. And like, I couldn't show some of the construction equipment that I designed. A client in Iowa designing construction equipment, and I've been hit with like, yeah, okay, yeah, I can do that. Oh crap, it's something outside of my wheelhouse, but I said yes. And then I go back and look at my resume. I look at what I've overcome personally, and I share this often. Like, look, I've been nearly killed 3 times in my life. I don't think trying to pick up a new tool, a new digital tool for my utility belt is going to kill me. So, it's the anxiety, but the creativity for designers is paramount. And if that means, I assume everybody's heard this, and I'll park with this one, is that somebody's cliches are cliches for a reason. I will do a digital detox where, all right, look, don't nobody call me for like at minimum 24 hours, but I've gone like a week and had like my kids, my family, but other than that, no TV. It's like a purge. And I will either go walk the dog, I'll go for a drive. That's something that I always, seriously, to clear the mind. And and one last thing that I've gotten into past, maybe, gosh, just, yeah, pre-COVID, float tanks. Like, dude, you go in there. I thought it was odd at first because I'm like, wait a minute, it's just all like, pfft. But dude, you get to this level of zen and come out good to go.
So definitely looking back at your skill set and what your foundation is, and then unplug. That's a probably something we all need to do more often, for
Yeah.
sure. Um, so you had said don't get cocky. How do you deal with other designers that you work with that are either more assertive or braggadocious, or how do you work with that?
Oh, well, I have Southern roots, and I can say what my grandmother said. Oh, well, bless your heart. That's the kindest way to tell somebody to F off. I don't want to start no trouble, but no, it's how, I don't know. Again, it's my perspective, but how I do it, I'm dealing with that right now, quite frankly, with the student. And, but peer to peer, I'll share a firsthand experience. I feel like, just FYI, I feel like that for any of us, I would assume, is probably one of the best tools in your arsenal when you're communicating. Is I really try to be intentional where it warrants, not to say all of us or this, like, no, hey, look, because you may find somebody like, look, no, I've never had that experience. Well, I tell you what, this is what happened to me. This is what I've lived through. So I remember when I was at Navistar, I was designing semi trucks. You may recall, Designers Night. It's this big shindig at, Detroit Auto Show every year. And designers come in from all over the world. And a lot of my friends, a lot of our friends that we went to school with, it's like a reunion, come back. And I see a friend of mine, he was at, I don't know, BMW or wherever. Like genuinely a friend. Hey man, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't even about design we we're talking about. Just, hey dude, oh, man, how's your dad? Or, hey, I hear your sister's doing such and such. Yeah. And one of his colleagues, somebody I don't know, but fellow designer, I swear to God, I don't know if you guys, I feel like to help get you guys to where I was with the story or this memory. This dude comes up to us. We're already engaged in a conversation. You see that. Kid you not. He's stuff. Hi, such and such. How are you? It's like, and who is this? And I'm looking at my buddy like, all right, well, no. Where do you design? And I was like, Navistar. And I looked me up and down like I had, I don't know, like, something in my teeth. Oh, I designed for, I can't even remember, like some brand. And I feel like I've gotten more mellow sometimes in my years, because I don't know if I can swear or not. I'm trying not to, but like, look, let's just say I called him what his mother wouldn't call. And I was like, Mother, you don't own this, like, dude. The way I see it, I was told, and I firmly believe this in a capacity, that there is always a bigger bully on the block. So just as much as this person, dude, you got your skill, you feel like your crap don't stink, knock yourself out. But guess what? You're going to run into somebody who you think you're here and you think, I'm here. You're going to run into somebody that's going to be looking down at you. So how you interact with people at the end of the day, in my opinion, it's my opinion, but my opinion comes from my lived experience, is that it is vital. It is so vital to treat people as human. We're all human. Like, dude, a whole designer over here who's, what happened in your life? Are you aware? Maybe, extend some grace. Are you aware that, you're behaving like this, you're interacting with people like this? And if I work with them, if I have to work with them, then I try to get, I really try to get to a human level. I had to do this when I became design director, and I had an issue. It's one thing meeting like somebody who's a jerk at an event and you're like, oh, okay, he's a designer who thinks his crap don't stink, I will never see you again. It's another thing when you have to work with those people. It's a whole nother thing when you have to lead those individuals and they're becoming disruptive to the team. And then creativity starts to go down, i.e. business. Human, getting to the human level. So, hey, I call it the elevator. And it's almost like for anybody who's a parent, maybe you can relate to this. And I'm not saying that people, but I do this with my kids. It's like the elevator, like my 10-year-old. Hey, Xavier, you got bed in an hour. You're still on the iPad. Do you know what your assignment is? Yeah. Okay. All right. 9:15. All right. 45 minutes. It's like football. It's like, all right, end of the first quarter, 9:30 rolls around. Dude, it's halftime. You're still on the iPad. So now I've gone from the first floor of like, hey, to the second floor of like, yo, you don't want me to get to the top, where now it's like, look, all gloves are off. In that same capacity, when you have to work with individuals like that, start at the elevator or start at the ground floor of the elevator. Like, hey, is there something? Are you all right? Extend some grace. You never know. Somebody could be going through something that you have no idea about. I experienced that with that concept truck that I showed. There's one guy who was waiting for a project like that to come along, and he had been there for like at least 40 something years. He was going to retire. He was a lot older than me. And when they put me in charge, I still remember to this day, kid you not, you're in charge. I got socks older than you. And I was thinking like, and he was dead serious. I'm like, there's a couple of problems there. One, I really think you should let those socks go. And two, that's very insensitive. So his demeanor changed. And excuse me, he became more of an asshole. And I'm like, but it was different. It was like, dude, what's, and I didn't realize that I was putting into play some of the things that were poured into me from my family structure growing up. Extending some grace, having a little bit of patience, but be ready to put a foot in somebody's butt if need be. So I asked him, hey, let's go for coffee. And he was like, look, I was like, dude, is everything all right? Or, I mean, you were kind of, and I was, by that point, I was like, you're kind of gruff, but you were extra gruff. It was, what's going on? His wife of over 40 something years was leaving him. And I'm sitting up here like, as he was retired, I'm like, holy crap, what? And I was like, so at that point I had no clue, but I met him at the human level and I had empathy. I did not know a lot of things. As I say, there's some certainties. All of us, our time here is limited. And sooner or later, you wake up and realize you're closer to the finish line than you are to the start line. So how's that going to play, not just as a human, but as a designer. And so, I just couldn't imagine what he must have been going through. But I met him at a human level and I said, dude, stop about work. What can I do? Is there anything I can do? I mean, I just talked to him. We just sat there and talked. And I asked him, like, what was his childhood like? What was, his parents who weren't living, but, just trying to get him to a headspace that was better. So, I just say with designer jerks, if you got to work with them, try to meet them at the ground level, at a human level. If they still end up being jerks, I'm going to hit the button to the second floor. Second floor could be, hey, look, I was kind. Let me be more direct. You really starting to piss me the hell off. What are we going to do about it? And then like point out tangible situations that this person was not being like a good human. And along those lines, one thing I do share with my son, that how would you feel truly think about it and let it sit and settle? How would you feel if somebody, it's that age old adage, how would you feel if somebody was treating you the same way that you're treating me? So yeah, that's it. I can go on. I don't want to throw my son under the bus, but he did break my iPad. And I was like, dude, how would you like it if you had an iPad and I broke your iPad? I need my iPad for work. So anyway, my bad.
Very, very direct human responses there. So one of the questions we had is, if you've had a project that you've been on that it just like everything was clicking for you and you felt like you've got the right solution and either the client or the internal team just doesn't pick it or tears it apart and you're like, what did I do wrong? Am I crazy? How do you deal with that?
Is my mic still on? Well, I got a fifth of gin. Oh, no, no, it's that happens a lot more than I think. Well, it happens a lot more than maybe people care to admit, or designers care to admit, or artists care to admit. But how I deal with it, I think it comes with, I can't remember what teacher it was. Oh, man, John Steiner. Gosh, man, why this name sticks out, but man.
John Steiner stuck out.
So, so for those that don't know, like us two, like older, I'm not going to call us old, but we're older heads here. So this instructor back in CCS, like the things that are poured into you throughout your life that you don't realize are like in a folder somewhere waiting to be accessed when the situation arises. So recently I had a client. We had this great idea. It wasn't just me. It's myself, another a contract consultant designer, and then they have two on staff. So we've gotten to be a well-oiled machine, and it was for, how can I, it was a cab for construction, agriculture, basically, like when you guys see when the power lines go down, and you got the crew that comes out, or they're drilling to put in like new cable or whatever. So that machine that's sitting there, and they're sitting in the chair and whatnot. So this has happened to me, and how I dealt with it, I haven't lost sight of your question. How I dealt with it reminds me of something John Steiner said to me. And I don't know if he said it to everybody. He was like, Bryan, you got to have enough passion. You got to have enough passion to get married to your project so you can really give it your all, but then be ready to divorce it and walk away. And I was like, is there alimony? And like, but I say that because that's kind of true, because if you put everything